Welcome back
Well,
to our second segment. This is the show General Management and Leadership 101 Conversation, brought to you by Comesa Global Online Channels, specifically on the Comesa Television Network and Comesa Radio Worldwide uh, 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 platform. We are still with our guest, and I'm handing over to my co-hosts, Divesh Masilal and George Mutenda Zamera, to take us through to the second segment with our guest, Mr. Diven Pillay from LTM Energy, and he is also the president of an association that brings together these trendsetters in our energy sector. He will give you more information about the association, how to get hold of it, the type of work it does, and of course, his own organization. Over to you, Divesh and George.
thank you, Sam. Another warm welcome to our listeners and our viewers. And as Sam had said, this is the General Management and Leadership 101 in the energy sector, is what we're looking at for today. And our guest as well is Mr. Devin Pillay, who we had a very engaging session with earlier on. Just to continue with where we left off, you shared with us lots of opportunities, some challenges, and to be honest, it sometimes sounds too good to be true that there's this gold out there when people are hungry, unemployed, but there's these opportunities that you say is out there. If you can elaborate on some of the projects that you've done, successes that's already done in South Africa, what the clients have benefited, organizations which participated in the platform which you have, which educates, trains, supports up and coming entrepreneurs in the energy space. If you can share that with our viewers and our listeners, please, Devin.
Sure. I'd like to latch on to what your remark was about when it's too good to be true. Sometimes most of the time it often is, right? And but if you've done success stories and you have evidence of that, then it's quite believable, because what we do as a company, you remember the show and tell when you used to be in school. You bring your pets and you show and tell and talk about your pet or whatever it is. We do it differently now, a little bit more professional in that sense. We go in and we write a success story. In one, I was talking about the FNB Rudaport building, and in that building, we reduced the energy consumption by 40%. We reduced the water consumption by over 25%, zero to landfill. And it's a Green Star rated building, and it's all those dimensions when you look at it. And we put over 2,000 kilowatts of solar carport PV, all in one building. So my question is, if you can do it in one building, why? And you've written the success story, and it was measured and verified. Why is it not possible to do it in others? The question I have, when you've done lots of projects in energy, water efficiency, sanitation, we spoke about, pipe hydro, I spoke about, where pipe hydro is generating around a third of Eskom prices, then you can see that you really done these success stories about replication. It's really about replication. And how do you now take this model when you've done the success story, replicate it in other countries or other areas in your country, or even globally? I'm not talking about only South Africa. I'm talking about Europe, US, etc. So the pipe hydro is what we call disruptive technologies that we're embarking on, where we talk about it's running around a third of conventional power. So coming back, we have a host of projects. The question I have for you, maybe it's your turn now. Where do you want me to focus on? There's so many projects that we have. There's so many IP, proprietary software that we've built, and we want to make it accessible to the whole of Africa. Why should we not share with others? They say sharing is caring. And we take this, and if you see our website, we're different from other companies. Some companies don't want to share information because the more you divulge, it becomes, releasing a lot of IP information. I'm saying, come on, guys, let's get real. Let's become
I
the
agree
agents of
100%
change.
with you there, Dylan. Sorry for interrupting.
Sure.
Because I don't want to lose this point you've just brought up. We are in the era of information age, if I may say so, and I think the multiplication comes as a result of sharing of ideas without necessarily divulging IP. But I think this is very critical for our continent and for our country, for people to understand that we are not going to become best by hiding insights and knowledge to each other. We're going to become best by actually collaborating, cross-pollinating, and generating content that is meaningful for everybody in the continent, in the country, in the sectors.
Sure.
We can still compete, but not on a high-level breakthrough sector developments like this. So just another topic for another day. The behavior of business leaders that needs to change to enable the growth of the economy and the sectors. Thank you, Devan, for bringing that. And I'm glad that you are saying it openly on the platform, that it is one of your drivers in your business to share the knowledge. Beautiful stuff. You don't often hear the industry leaders saying that. You always hear people say that we are the best, we are the leader.
Yeah, I think. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Devesh, I think what's important, and George as well as Sam, that if you want to have a tsunami of change, and to emphasize the word tsunami, it's meant in a positive light here. If you want to be that tsunami of change, we must have a shared vision. And that shared vision is about really energizing Africa for the benefit of all. So the most impactful way of doing it, and to have that tsunami of change, if we all aligned to a common vision for the better for the continent, for future generations, and there's no way that we can do it without having this cohesion and sharing of knowledge. There's no way that we can do it if one leader in Africa is pulling away from the rest. And we need to show our leadership that we, as the H factor, the human factor, cannot be deprived any longer, that the human spirit actually is the fiber that can make a difference and become the tsunami of change. And that's so important.
Yeah, and you've touched on one of the very critical aspects, which I think is what makes a good leader. I mean, you got to be holistic, you got to be balanced, you got to look at needs of others, not just look at traditionally most business leaders. I use that word very loosely. They would be pushing for financial benefits and gain for the organization, and not necessarily look at a holistic, bigger picture and looking at things from a triple bottom line approach. Devin, you asked me which specific projects I could possibly lead you to give more details into. If we could look at the FNB or West Bank campus in Roodepoort, the client obviously didn't ask for that full big bang holistic solution which you did offer him. They obviously came to you with a more simplistic request, but obviously through your process, you impressed them and shared knowledge and brought them to a different level where the solution that you gave them was this holistic thing which came through your process. If you can possibly take us through your process that you experienced with that particular client.
Sure. So there's one thing, it was quite a successful journey because you don't just do a once-off project and you run away from the client. Then you'll be working like a dog, if dogs work, that is. You will be chasing after projects, and it don't make sense. Whereas if you start off with a strategic objective with the client to understand what they want to do holistically to achieve from a green agenda perspective, And the green agenda went like this. FNB and Westbank, who are the tenants there, wanted to be a self-reliant facility, self-reliant, reduce the dependency on the grid, but they had the aspiration to be one of the greenest buildings in Africa. So that's the vision. How do we as a company support the vision? So there it does not feature how many projects that you do or what type of projects. We understand and we resonate with their vision, right? And likewise, once we understand the vision, we drill down into what we call the strategy that supports the vision. We put on a powerful strategy to say, okay, over a 5-year or a 10-year, we can do this realistically. You cannot spend all your money in year one, and then you find that the customer doesn't have the cash flows to support that. So we put a journey map for them, and we put a strategic journey map over a window period defined, whether it's 3, 5, or 10 years. Each customer is different. And then going with the strategic map, we put on an implementation plan that will fit with their budget over that time, okay? But realizing when they spend that money, the return is so good that it is a no-brainer, as we say. And that's the education that went with this client. And that's why we are now having a journey map, not only in that same facility, but multiple buildings across their portfolio. That's why we have the national contract because we become the entrusted partner, the preferred partner of choice to work with the client. So it's that relationship more than just projects. It's about portraying that holistic approach, whether it's energy, water, renewable energy, sanitation, waste. It's those type of things that you bring together in a holistic, coordinated way and say, client, you're not just a client for us, you're a partner of choice. And then we work towards this relationship that we can move forward with. So I hope that just covers from how we handle it. Our competitors may think differently. Our competitors may focus with a different company. Our competitors may focus only on solar, only on lighting, or only on power factor correction. We bring this and nurture this from a holistic approach.
Holistic.
Yes, and that's very important in the journey map we do.
Yeah, okay. Just as well, we in South Africa, we faced with lots of load shedding, and I think that load shedding is here to stay for several years to come. Different kind of business case for putting a renewable energy type of project, which would be shopping centers. Tell us about the KwaDukuza Mall project that you did.
Sure. So, this is a shopping center in the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal, and we're proud to be associated with a very new shopping center. And they put a roof that was solar readiness, and one of the criteria for them to attract international tenants was to look at solar or going green in various ways. And one of the one of the ways what would be solar. Okay. There's other initiatives, but let's just focus on the solar. So we put just over 1.1 megawatts of solar PV, upgraded to 2 megawatts. That's actually 2,000 kilowatts, right? Of solar PV on a rooftop. Like what we did in F&B, we did carport. Here we're doing rooftop PV. So in certain areas we do ground mounted, other areas we do rooftop, others, we would look at carport, right? So it just depends on the business case itself. The beauty of it is we pride ourselves with the highest quality equipment. So tier 1, like you have tier 1 ESCOs is always the best. We have tier 1 performance solar panels. We looked at different inverters. We also looked at the quality of inverters that we had, and we put it into a grid-tied system. So when the sun shining, it'll supply the load to the shopping centers. Also, if if they have diesel generators as a backup because of load shedding, then the solar can actually complement the generators. So in other words, you reduce your diesel consumption. So that's the beauty of solar. It makes financial sense. We, as a package, we funded the whole project, no cost to the client. And there again is a remarkable story. So here's the no-brainer coming into it. The conventional energy cost around 1 Rand 67 cents per kilowatt hour. We generated around 95 cents per kilowatt hour with clean green energy. So why would they buy dirty power at 1 Rand 67 when they can buy clean power at 95 cents per kilowatt hour? Simple. So we become the IPP, and they purchase from us because we put the system up, and they pay only on performance, on the output of the solar PV. When it generates clean energy, then they pay for that energy. So it's simple as that.
And of course, that's the direct benefit, which sometimes even, potential customers don't even see. The other benefits would be that you can advertise that your mall is clean, it's green, and of course, when there's load shedding, there is portions of the mall which is still in operation. You don't necessarily need to be using diesel. You have the sun shining. You can have battery storage, which also you also work on as in your company, and for the country itself as well. It's something that you can promote, and it brings in, even tourists could be interested in visiting places which has got renewable energy as an energy source in the economy. One of the other.
Devesh, one thing to add. There are international clients and maybe some local clients that are driven to go green, and they are happy to pay premium rental for a facility that's green. So that's important from a trend perspective as well. And some companies have a policy that they will not enter a shopping center if it's not meeting a certain criteria, and one of those criteria is how green the building is. So that's an interesting phenomenon that's taking place. You can see how the landscape is changing towards the green economy.
Yes. Another aspect as well I wanted to just reach out on, the Green Building Council. They've been doing a lot of work in South Africa for quite a long time. But in my opinion, we're still not hitting the ground. We're not really reaching the kind of potential that there is in South Africa. Is there any reasons that you can give why it's not necessarily taking off?
Yeah, so I gave you just a sample of what happened in Stanger. If I told the owners of Kodaduza Mall, hold on, I can supply you with clean green energy at cheaper than the conventional electricity, then then it's a no-brainer, right?
Yes.
And there's a bottom line. So clients are concerned and focused more on the bottom line impact than just pure doing it for marketing reasons that I've got a Green Star rated building. But what customers must also realize that you can do all these initiatives, these green initiatives, and that can add value to a green rated building. So the process of doing it would lead to value, intrinsic value, as I shared with you, for going green. And then it's just a process to get a rating, a Green Star rating. But if you put your Green Star rating, which a lot of ESCOs do, without the hard, tangible benefits, then you're missing the cue. You're really off cue. If you put that first, your bottom line impact, and then the nice to have is the marketing, then you're on the right track. Because the client always wants to see the bottom line impact. You know, it's a trying time for individuals, it's a trying time for companies, it's a trying time for government, and everybody's going through a trying time. You cannot shove something which just purely focused on marketing on the client's desk and hope that you can achieve the desired results. So the packaging of what you present, it is so important. It is important that you don't just do a quote to the client. It's important that you do a business case that is sound to the client. Otherwise, I don't blame the client for not going through with it. It's not about being a tree hugger only. Don't put that before looking at the tangibles so that the customers want to save. And what is the true business case of going green? And I think that's where a lot of ESCOs are falling short. And that's where we can lend a helping hand in how you package it so that they can get business in the green economy.
Yeah, Devon, can I take you into another area? And the area I'm talking about is the impact COVID has had on everyone. And I don't know what impact it has had on your business, but perhaps if it has had, let's hear what it is and what you have done about it and what the lessons you have learned from it.
I think if you look at COVID, and it is a sad time for the whole world, right? So many people dying. It's really unfortunate, and we should really pay tribute to many people that died, the frontline people that really spend their efforts and time really being at the front line and being unselfish in their duties. It's just simply amazing, and that's a testimony of human spirit. It's so powerful. I come back to us as a company. You find COVID as a lot of people. I'm talking from my home right now. Working from home, or what we call virtual office, is now a sort of in thing. About 25 years ago, I presented the concept of virtual office, where you can reduce your carbon footprint. You don't need to travel to a set office. And that time, it was the right idea at the wrong time, so I was laughed off at. But this time, I mean, probably I can say thanks to COVID, I can easily sell this. But what it means is that people working from homes need to have their computers working, access to the Wi-Fi, the cell phones charged all the time. And with the load shedding and the poor quality of supply, therein lies some green solutions that we can offer for the home user. So we made, and that is why you find like FNB, RMB, Nashua rollout, supporting green solutions rollout was so important. So it's not a nice thing to say thanks to COVID that there is that positive side, but it is a fact. It's driven behavior in a different way. The whole habits have changed. The mentality of corporates who refuse to allow people to work from home has suddenly changed overnight because of COVID, right? So now they're quite amenable. Now the questioning is, do we need such big offices? Do we need, such huge boardrooms? Can we use the virtual, like we are now, using a different media technology to communicate with each other? So that has been tested, and that's good for us is that it brought a lot of business to us in that form and shape. The other part is where we saw, our growth has been phenomenal over the last 2 years, where we've seen some companies who do the same as us, they have fallen down simply because they have not diversified or strategized, properly. So their customers right now, because of COVID, I mean, if in our offices, if you look to the left, the office on the left closed down. On the right-hand side, they've closed down. So it just brings it home. And it's sad to see that. But what we offer is to the clients out there, when COVID hit, and it caused a lot of countries to, not only companies, but countries to go in recession. So there again, what do you do when you face COVID? Now you have to look at, hold on, I need to reduce operational cost. Now there's so much of operational cost you can reduce, right? The first trigger, the first lever people do is to fire people.
Yeah.
Now why not?
Sadly.
Why not reduce your operational cost by going green if we can show you facts on the table? And you don't have to spend the money. We will fund it for you, right? And we'll show you that you incur savings from day one. From day one, like I mentioned, what happened in Stanger, the mall, the mall we're supplying them a green energy at cheaper than the conventional energy. So you're saving already. Take those savings and use that as your profit, because now you're improving your bottom line. Maybe your top line is impacted, but you're improving your bottom line, how to become efficient. So COVID has caused many people to go out of business, or they are going through a trying time. So we present that to reduce the operational cost and become more efficient. Okay, so I think that brought a lot of business for us to improve over 100% in over 2 years. And people look at us and say, "What did you do right?" It is simple, and we don't mind sharing that. We really don't mind sharing it. If you go to our website, we go into case studies which are detailed on how to do it. If you ask me how to bring about these savings, it is nothing miraculous about it. As I say, we share as much information as possible. But COVID, it just tells you, how do you prioritize and how do you diversify? If if your business, you got a restaurant business. Now, one has to think outside the box. You can't, because of COVID restrictions, you can't run the restaurant as normal. So how do you change the whole philosophy and take food to the client's home instead of the client coming to the restaurant? How do you use the same venue to diversify that into something else, whether it's a green economy or whether it's something that supports the way the change of behavior since COVID? Those are the change, it's called a tactical change, that you need to actually focus on to survive. But not only to survive, we find that we are thriving, not only surviving in this current context right now.
Evan, beautiful explanation there. This speaks to this show, the General Management and Leadership 101 conversation. And I think what I'm taking away with me from your articulation is that it is not enough to be technically and functionally fit as an entrepreneur or as a business. You also need to have a capacity to bring in management and leadership, especially in times of crisis. If we are just going to drive for people to become entrepreneurs because they are good engineers and they're good specialists, and we forget about the role that management and leadership capabilities play in sustaining a business, we will find ourselves in another crisis tomorrow. So I think this for me is fundamental. Yeah. As we encourage people to become entrepreneurs, we need to tell them as well that you're going to have to step up your management and leadership abilities, the ability to deal with things that you will have not planned for. And that speaks to strategy. Now, do we, as a sector, a new sector, and as a country, have strategies that will withstand the potential crises that are out there, like the one that George asked about? What do we take from here to go forward? And talking specifically about the potential crisis of climate change, which we still talk about it as if it's hundreds of years ahead. It can wipe off all these great achievements that you and I, George and Devesh, have been talking about. How ready are we, or what do we need to do as a business, as a government, as professionals, to make sure that we are never going to experience crisis as a result of climate change? We're never going to experience water crisis. We're not going to experience another pandemic that could come from anywhere. And I put this squarely on us as management and leaders of businesses. What is your response?
Firstly, I'd just like to state that the pandemic has given more light and more focus on climate change. I don't know if you've seen that. So there are some positive shedding of light into the correct area where it deserves attention. The unfortunate thing about it is there are some schools of thoughts where, if you think, and I'm so fortunate, the Trump era has come to an end, where there were non-believers that climate change is in fact a myth, not a reality. So you have those type of people that you need to address, because they have either vested interest in the brown projects out there or investments in the brown projects, whatever that motive is. But how you can turn a blind eye to something that is so real, and especially with the intensity of the natural disasters that are increasing, not only within the country, but globally, that can be staring on your face. And looking at the extreme weather conditions, shortage of water supply in various areas, all because of climate change. That the fact that real professionals can come together, the Paris Agreement that was signed by various countries to sign a pledge on what the commitment is towards climate change and the mitigation of that. It was great to see all these countries coming together and signing this pledge. We even saw the signing of the C40 pledge, where cities coming together and say, okay, we will now ascribe to becoming carbon neutral by 2030. So it reminds me of the time when I had a teacher in school. He always told me, you need to have a good attitude and you need to pay attention. And I could never figure out, because I could never understand what he meant, because I didn't know what the baseline is for me to have a good attitude or to pay attention. Because how do you pay attention? Because we never taught to pay attention. So it reminds me of that. And I realized later, many years later, to pay attention is an art in itself. It comes with a lot of discipline. It comes with some advice and teachings from somebody who can pay attention and be the heightened perception out there, or to have a good attitude. tell me what a good attitude means, I don't understand what you mean by it. So it took me a long time to understand and be in sync with what the teacher, because he didn't tell me how. He told me, okay, have this, but he didn't tell me what it meant or how to do it. So it was lost when he actually bounced off me. And I don't know if you were in school. A lot of people say you pay attention, or your parents told you pay attention, and you didn't understand or comprehend it. Likewise, I link this accord. I like where you pledge this, and a lot of countries say, okay, I pledge this, but they don't know what that commitment is. So you need to unpack that commitment, and it is important for me. For example, the C40 pledge. There are about 5 major cities in our country right now that signed the pledge. It took me to meet with the mayor's office or the municipality head to find out they didn't really understand, okay, how do they respond to this pledge? They didn't know what the response and the tactical move would be. So you have to unpack that pledge, that into tangible, it's how do you make a difference, or how do you eat an elephant? Maybe that's an analogy. It's just bit by bit, right? And take this whole huge objective or this dream that you have and break it up into small pieces so that you can fulfill your goal at the end of it. And I think that is your first important move. If you play a game of chess, that would be your important move. Make that move with a pawn first. It may be the most powerful, important move to get going, taking action. Don't sit back. Take action, but do it with professionals around you, and surround yourself with professionals that can show you the way and map it out. Don't sign a pledge for the sake of signing it, and then many years later you fall short of signing this pledge. The World Bank, for example, are now holding countries and corporates to account that if they don't spend their money onto green projects, they will be held accountable, or they will not get the monies at all. So the loans that they asking for has to address climate change as a key criteria. So you'll see this becomes more and more high on the agenda when you have these discussions. So I hope I give you a mix of, when you talk about strategy, it's about getting real and unpacking what that bold statement you are making, and unpacking into tangible, small moves to get to that bigger picture and your bigger goal in life. But then again, as I say, it comes down to a lot of people don't understand what they're signing. They don't understand how to pay attention or how to have a good attitude.
So we are saying that these accords, they just actually kickstart a movement that can only be realized when the key role players in the various sectors and in the various countries themselves meaningfully bring some initiatives and projects. So I often find that when we talk about the Paris Accords and all these C40 Accords, we talk of them as if they are magic wand. So what I hear you saying is it really needs some activism of various role players to make these accords realities. Otherwise, we'll just keep on signing accords after every 5 years, and we're just piling up our offices with all these accords until the crisis hit home, like the pandemic hit home. Because it's not like we didn't know that there was a potential of a pandemic of this sort. We knew, but it's just that we never really thought that we needed to do anything about it. Now look at the price we've paid. And I always say that we have a practical case here how Ebola was contained in one area and dealt with before it became a global pandemic. And why couldn't we do the same with this one? But the rest is history. But going forward, how do we really now take these things serious at management and leadership level? When we talk about crisis, being crisis ready, when we talk about crisis management at every level of our lives, not just as policy documents, but as really, and we bring it closer home. We've had crises that were avoidable. Now, from a management and leadership, I don't want a situation one day in this new sector that is such a great promise with so many people opposing it, that we experience a crisis that will shatter all these hopes that we have been having. And I think that lies squarely on your association and management and leadership people like yourself. And I'm really talking from a vested interest because I see this as an opportunity for Africa. But the question is, how is strategy brought in? And so I've mentioned so many things, but I'm just trying to say that it's not enough to draft strategies and policies and then you leave it there. It needs some activism of some sort. And I get a feeling and an impression that you are that type kind of an activist who's prepared to put his dollar on the table to say, I want to save the world, not just only make money from the world.
I mentioned in the break, what a pleasure is to get paid for something you love. So I don't understand sometimes why customers pay me, because I give them advice and of course it helps my staff and so I can feed other people, but it's something I'm passionate for, because when I was in Eskom for 20 years, it was something that I had to see as a task you perform. But now I see that when you do something you love, it's no longer a task. It's something that you just love, and you do it. You wake up all energized, and you know, you go ahead and it does not become a task. It becomes like this. I mean, I'm sharing some. It's not a 2 hours or 3 hours that I'm wasted time because there's no transition or transaction, no money transaction. So it's about what a difference are you making. So yes, in the sense that it's not only about the money, it's more than that. It is about, and I mentioned this explicitly, you came in with nothing. There was no money in your bank account when you came in. And when you die, you'll realize you have to close your bank accounts, otherwise it will be closed for you.
You have to dissolve your estate.
And I can bet your bottom dollar, even if there's money in your bank account, it would be removed. Unfortunately, not by you. So if you realize that, and you realize that it is a finite time you have on earth, not an infinite time, then you realize that you are mortal. You realize that that you cannot work in isolation. There's more to life than just having money in your bank account. Now, I support, for example, the Food for Life program is a global Food for Life which is fed over 7 billion people. If you heard Steve Jobs as well, highlighted the origins of the Food for Life came up from the Hare Krishna side, and how he was fed by that movement, and he's doing a fantastic job. Now, if you have all the, if you look at the rich in the world and you put them together, they are running, I would just say take 10% of the number of billionaires in dollar terms and put them together. It makes up for more than a country's wealth, many countries put together, right? So it's frightening what they're going to do with the monies, right? And how they put it to good use. Now I see, okay, I mean, we speak about the Bill and Melinda Gates, they're doing the rack up a fortune and they spend it wisely. Now, if these wealthy individuals, the high net worth individuals, find that it's time to do something for climate change because it's the right thing to do, and they have children, or if they don't, I mean, just being human and caring for others is all they need to. Then they will do something. We're not asking for their money, but you can say, okay, hold on, let's put it into it. And they can get a return from their investment and make more money, but stimulate the green economy because it's the right thing to do. Now, it can be something which they can put together a green fund, get entrepreneurs together and put this green fund together so that we can train people, so we can get them making them agents of change, bringing them and working in harmony to address issues into Africa. There again, you'll see that you bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. And that's the startling response right now. If you see, there's such a huge gap between the super wealthy and the super poor, in the sense that gap has to be closed. And that is why we can't, it becomes a pandemic when it runs out of control, because the lack of people being equipped to deal with a pandemic. And that is a key thing to address. And I believe one of the enablers to close the gap is the green economy. And if you can get the quality right, the standard of living for the people in every sphere, whether it's urban or rural, then we've hit home to make a difference in people's lives. There should not be a person who is born should not be present with poverty right from the day go. There should not be hunger for children, young children that are dying, not even seeing a day or two since birth because of simple poverty and hunger. So how do we close that gap and work in and get this, the humankind being human, being human, being human. That is key. We say we are human beings, and to being human is two different things. And all we're asking is for us to be human.
Yeah.
I want to commend Devin, his approach, his philosophy that he uses in his life. Obviously, is instilled in his management style, his leadership style, into his business, and it's been working. One of the things you did mention is, these accords that get signed. The one challenge remains, being from the government background, it remains that leadership or supposed leadership always changes and dynamics change, people change. You sign an accord today, you're out of power, they throw that accord away because it's associated with the previous leadership. So we lose the momentum that we sometimes gain. I think the types of things you're doing, the things you've explained, does actually show us that one of the opportunities to overcome that challenge that you face at a government level is that you can still work at a private sector level. With the COVID pandemic also showing that people are forced to work from home. Together with that comes the energy use of the country also shifting. You find that because there's a large amount of people working from home, the peaks kind of shift in terms of the energy usage. So the knowledge you've been sharing also then gets targeted to a residential level. In an industrial level, of course, again, it's changing because you don't need the big boardroom that you mentioned. So there's a holistic view that you've taken into your business, but obviously it's coming from you as an individual, the leadership style you've created, and the work balance that you've created in your own life between work, life, and your own spirituality, and that of being human. It's easier said, but very few people want to be human.
Whilst you're there, for me, that's a very, very important point, because I come from a very spiritual background as well. And I noticed that you have a policy where you dedicate 10% of your profits or revenue to helping causes. Can you talk a little bit about that and what drives that for your business?
Sure.
And just before you move on, Devin, just to add to that, I also would like you to share with the viewers and the listeners how they really come into contact with you, your organization, and your association, because I'm looking at the time. I don't want us to lose that opportunities. You've been mentioning that people must go to your website to see all these things. If you can just wrap up that question and answering that question by also giving us information how to really access this all this platform.
Yeah, your
Sure.
contact information.
Yes.
Yes. So I'll give you the website is www.ltmenergy.co.za. LTM is Lima Tommy Mary. And it's the slogan being leadership through motherwit. Motherwit is common sense. So leadership through motherwit, that's LTM Energy. One word, .co.za. All right. And you can use this email address. It goes to several people and they will attend to it. If you go into our website as well, there's a call center. But if you use this email address, SSOs at ltmenergy.co.za, then you will make contact with our office and they will respond. And we are willing, and that is within the company level. From the ESCO Association, if you go into, just for simplicity, if you just go and still interact with SSO, they'll give you the details of the ESCO Association, which is IASA, ESCO Association of Southern Africa. You're most welcome. I'm quite open as the president of the ESCO Association to bring unity into Africa, because we have a lot of backing from organizations such as the World Bank, the German agency as well, and to give those documents at no charge, which they've paid for in other countries, at no charge to organizations that exist in Africa. And then we can work together in saying, hold on, why do you have to start off from a low base? Let's start off together with the same base that we are and work as collective to improve each other in Africa. So I'd like to extend that invite to other organizations that exist, because we've invested a lot of time and effort with captains of the industry and with global players to come to the party to make a difference with the ESCO Association. So I'd like to put that out there as well. If you want further details, you're more than welcome. I will share, various other details, but just attend to, if there's a specific need, ask SSO at ltmenergy.co.za, and you will definitely get a response. I want to know the question that I need to address in terms of the 10% and what does that mean. And then I think Devesh, George, you mentioned about the 10%. Let me handle that, and I'll come back to personal side and how I work as an individual and how the culture is replicated to the LTM family. We don't say it's an organization. We call our organization, the people who work for us, is an LTM family. If one is weak in something, the other is strong. As a family, we must help each other. So you can see we bring that nurturing point back home. We don't view it as a business. We view it as a family. And we're very specific about the LTM family. The second thing, coming back to George, you mentioned the 10%. What we have is 10% of our profits go to our staff. When we make profits, 10% of all the profits would go to a kitty and distribute it to staff. 10% we allow for marketing arms. We have agents out there that promote us, or channel partners that promote us, and for a lead fee, as long as there's no conflict, we were able to give 10% of our profits on the project that they bring in. And the other 10% goes to CSI programs, as well as CSI programs that support orphans, that support some of the ethos we believe in, like for example, energizing the rural communities. That comes off our profits. So we run our company off 70% of our profits. On a personal level, I've committed that 10% of my wealth will go for the needy. All right, and it could be, and then of course I broke up my wealth on a personal level to say that there's a certain amount that will go for projects that will need R&D, for example, research and development, and so it's stimulating the green economy. So that's personally what I will do. As I say, we are mortals. We are mere mortals in life. And if that money can be put to good use to stimulate the green economy, that'll be excellent. On a personal level, Devesh, that you mentioned, I wake up in the morning, usually 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I tend to, first thing I would do is ground myself, put your feet onto the ground. They say it has miracles. I just feel good, whether it's a myth or a reality, but it's sort of, they say your body is all about energy, right? And it brings you stability when I put my bare feet on the ground, and it helps me a lot. And if the sun is not out by that time, I like to face the sun. I couldn't believe my mum and her mum used to, pray to the sun. I never knew the true meaning of that, and COVID taught me the reality that the sun in itself is so powerful. I mean, it can destroy the virus, right? And so I just lift my hands to the sun, and for whatever reason, not to any specific god or religion, it's just because I feel good, and it brings a little bit of discipline to me. And then I go upstairs to pray, and kneel down, and there again to create harmony. And before I train for about half an hour to 1 hour a day. That's my regular routine. And then I'm set for the day. I'm set for the day in getting some stability, and that is my base, and prioritizing what I should focus on. I was surprised I was elected as the president of the ESCO Association. There are lots of captains in the industry in Southern Africa, but I was glad to be elected because from what I hear, it's the first time government has seen such a proactive organization such as the ESCO Association. I've managed to leverage off global leaders such as the World Bank, such as GIZ, German agency, and bring them together. I believe if we work together as a collective, we can indeed make a difference. And that's where the power lies in the people to make that difference, and comes back and resonates with the H factor, the human spirit, coming back to not just being called a human being, but about being human. And I hope that will resonate to all in Africa. After all, we are children of Africa to make that difference.
Thank you very much, Devin. You've heard a lot for today in terms of the energy sector and what opportunities and challenges reside. If you have any further information that's required over and above the context that Devin has shared, you can also drop us some inputs at our call center. That's call center at Cometsa, COMETSA-GOC.com. And also don't forget to listen to our shows, the General Leadership Management and Leadership 101, where we look at different sectors and what lessons can be learned from those sectors, opportunities in those sectors from industry experts. Our show is every first Thursday of the month from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. That's from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock every first Thursday of the month. Thank you to my guests and our viewers and our listeners. Thank you to
Thank you.
my co-host and to our production manager, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, colleagues. We've run out of time. This was wonderful. We look forward to continued engagement with our guest, David Pillay, and many more others. Thank you very much. Take care and be safe.